Welcome back to the Emerging Growth Conference. I'm Anna Berry. I wanted to give you a little update. There's been a change in the schedule. So those expecting to see digital brands, they will present at 12:30 Eastern. So please stay with us. But happy to present our next company. We have Lomiko Metals Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol LMRMF and is focused on the exploration and development of minerals for the new green economy, such as lithium and graphite. Lomiko also has 100% interest in Lomiko Technologies Inc., an investor in graphene technology and manufacturer of electronic products. Please welcome the CEO, Paul Gill. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me on.
All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, guys. What we're here today to talk about is the future. And when we're doing that, we're obviously going to make some forward-looking statements, but just want to make sure that you understand that. But the future is green. And in order to talk about what's going to happen in the future, we're going to take a quick trip to the past. In 1980, no one had a computer. By 1990, everyone had one. In 1990, no one had the internet. 2000, everyone had the internet. 2000, no one had a smartphone. 2010, everyone had a smartphone. 2010, no one had social media. And 2020, everyone had social media. So change happens. Change is ubiquitous. And what we are dealing with now is the electric vehicle revolution, and it's produced an opportunity for people who want to invest in green materials that will go into electric vehicles. So with that, I'm going to launch my presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. So the first thing we want to explain is that we do trade under both LMR on the Toronto Venture Exchange and on the OTC LMRMF. And we've been at this particular green economy situation and exploration for about 6 or 7 years. And we have found, I think, a very interesting opportunity that we're developing now in Quebec. So let's drill down a little bit and find out about it. So what are the highlights? Number one, we're focused on both lithium and graphite. We've just acquired a 70% interest in the Berrier lithium project from Critical Elements, which is a premier lithium explorer in Quebec. So we're exploring that this summer. But our highlight is the Laloute graphite deposit, which is located just north of Montreal by about 70 or 80 miles. It is I think, been developing for the last 3 or 4 years. And now we're getting to the very critical moment in which we produce an economic statement regarding the property. We've hired Ausenco, which is a large engineering firm, to do what's called a preliminary economic assessment. And we've also hired Bridge Consultants, which will do a community relations with groups that are in the local area, so that we know what the expectations are, and also if we're going to development, what their expectations might be down the line for the project, and what their concerns are. Further, we have investor relations on staff, and we have a project manager and a development team. In addition, currently, the company has $3.5 million in cash and has a working relationship with several different funders that may participate in the future. So here's a quick map of where we're at. On the left side of your screen, you'll see the Laloute project, which has got 2 areas of discovery already. Very interesting, and we're going to drill down on that mostly. On the other side, we have the Berrier lithium project, which is located in James Bay, north in the northern part of Quebec, and it is located in the very prospective lithium triangle north. Essentially, there is a lot of lithium there, very similar to the area down in Chile and Argentina, which has brine deposits. However, these deposits in these areas are usually in hard rock, which produces lithium hydroxide. So we're going to have more on that in the next little while as we develop and explore. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about where we're at now. What we feel is electric vehicles is the opportunity of the next decade. Why? It's because now what we're seeing is a constant increasing adaptation for electric vehicles. We see that Tesla certainly has started off the trend, and all the other big automakers have followed. And that's being propelled by consumer demand for these type of minerals or these type of vehicles that don't produce emissions. So battery electric vehicles are a big trend, and it's going to continue to be a trend for the next several years. So what's that mean to our industry, the people who are developing minerals? Well, it means 15 times, there's 15 times more graphite than lithium in a battery. That's why we went after graphite first. So we're going to need a lot of this material for each particular car. For instance, in an average Tesla, there's 92 kilograms, which is about 200 pounds of graphite. Pretty amazing. So that will develop as the electric vehicle industry develops. We'll need to develop that supply chain. Right now, most of the lithium-ion batteries come from China. We need to change that. That's not a sustainable future for us, and we're also taking a lot of development money and wasting it when we could be using that development money to develop projects and upgrading the material into lithium-ion batteries in Canada and the US. So we think that there's a bright future for that. A little drill down into the flake graphite market. Essentially, you have various different levels of use for the graphite market. It's used in additives, in oils potentially, in electrical industry, smelting, big use in smelting, meaning the creation of steel. The creation of the steel industry is very important because now we're seeing a big spike in the price in steel. It's used in brake shoes, refractories to retain heat, gaskets. And as you can see, the biggest interesting use is in electric vehicles and nuclear facilities where there is spherical graphite, which is almost 3 times the price or 4 times the price of any other type of graphite. So we definitely want to see if we can develop that kind of material. So what's the market like? Well, what I talked about briefly before was Canada and US have integrated supply chains. That's very important. Both our leaders have said that we need to develop these. In fact, President Trump previously also agreed with this and signed the actual agreement before Biden even got involved. Biden's just accentuated that. So it's not a political issue. It's really a realistic issue about 2 countries having to work together in order to prevent dependence upon China and other outside entities. We have a mineral wealth in Canada. There's about 13 different materials that we can develop in Canada. And I think that makes for a very good situation. Quebec has both mineral wealth and hydroelectric capacity. So that makes it a prime area to develop mining and other types of areas. And it's recognized as one of the top 5 in North America. So a little bit about the project itself. The LaLute project has got excellent infrastructure. This is very important because you need to get that material out of the ground and into the hands of the customer. So we have 2 major areas of discovery. We have good road access. As you can see, the red lines are highways, and then there's road access by gravel to the actual property. It's about 192 kilometers, 150 miles from the Port of Montreal, which is an international port, goes out to the East Coast, can go all the way down to Texas, where the Tesla plant is, or across to Europe as well. One of the big interesting parts is that one of the only graphite mines, in fact, the only graphite mine that's been working for the last 20 years is located just north of us. It's called the Imerys Timcol mine. And what they have is a proven amount of graphite that's about 5 million tons at 7.42% CG means carbon graphite. And graphite is carbon. It's an allotrope of carbon, just like diamonds or coal, but it is right in the middle. A very interesting situation, but it is very highly conductive, and that's why it's important in all those electrical uses and etc. The other thing that's going to lower cost is near surface mineralization. And our material has been tested and it's amenable for graphite anodes, which go into the electric vehicle battery. We own 100% of the project, and that's subject to a net smelter return once production starts. And we'll deal with that as we go. So here's the area that's very exciting. As you can see on the left hand, on one side, there's a geophysical survey which indicates highlights in pink and purple that there is a lot of conductive material in the ground. Well, as you can see, we've only really looked at 2 zones at this point in time. The other zones have yet to be explored. So we have, I think, a very interesting opportunity. In 2016, we developed a resource estimate for the lower portion of that area, which is an open pit design. And now we're designing the open pit for the electric vehicle zone in the next little while. So those combined projects will be the subject of a preliminary economic assessment. So those are very important documents that explain the value of the project. So just some idea of what kind of drill holes we have. We have quite a few highlights here, and anything over 100 meters is 300 feet in length. That's a Statue of Liberty, essentially, in depth. So along that area, we have, I think, several 100-meter strikes. But also very important is, if you recall in the previous couple slides, Imerys, the producer, had 7.42%. Well, you can see in the yellow highlights that several of our intercepts are in the 7 or above. Some are as high as 18, and are in zones that are included in the larger area. So the next thing that we're looking at is the new zone. Again, we're seeing this blue highlights, very good intercepts, and we're really interested in finding out how that all develops. Now, here's a bigger picture of the entire new area, the electric vehicle zone. Huge area, huge strike length of a kilometer long almost, several areas of 10% plus mineralization. And with PEA and metallurgy pending, we're going to really discover how to process the material and also how much material there is. So, and this is the previous resource we've already have in 2016, and the top line number is 4 million tons of 6.5%, which is very similar to Imerys. So we think we have a viable project, and we're looking forward to developing it in the next little while. So at this point in time, our share structure is about 220 million out, but we have 3.5 million in cash. And if we were to exercise further warrants, we'd receive another 9 million. So we're really in good shape. We definitely want to attract new shareholders at this point in time and develop our shareholder base, and that's the purpose of our situation. So I'm open to questions at this point in time. I can shut this down and go back to the other view. So why don't you go ahead, Anna, and see if there's any questions and what people would like to do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So how long until you are producing graphite? And do you currently have any prospects to sell to?
At this point in time, we've had several interesting conversations with groups in which we can't really get into too many details, but the project will not be producing graphite for another 3 to 4 years. We're very similar to another project very near us, which is called Nouveau Monde. The actual footprint on the ground is very similar to Nouveau Monde. On Monday, Nouveau Monde started trading on the New York Stock Exchange at $13 U.S. So we're really interested in developing this project and being the second large graphite project to come out of Quebec.
Perfect. Someone wants you to go a little bit more into details about the Lomiko Technologies Inc. and the 100% interest owned by Prometheus Technology. Can you hash that out a little bit more?
Yeah, essentially in 2019, we developed several different projects within the technology space which use graphite or technology, and we've essentially spun that out into Prometheus, which is going to go public in the Dutch Caribbean Exchange. So that project is still underway. We're going through audits with Prometheus, and eventually Lomiko will retain 20% ownership of Prometheus, and Prometheus will purchase Lomiko. So we have a graphene project called Graphene Energy Devices. In there, we have a smart home project, which is called SHD Devices. And there is also some interesting developments we can do in the future. Prometheus will be a technology incubator. And because the business was so different from what the mining company is doing, we really felt it was necessary to separate them out.
When you start mining, where do you see the graphite processed?
Well, we'd like to process the material very close to the site. That's highly important because the more you transport raw material, the more it costs. So if you can have a processing unit close to the site, you extract the material, process it near site, and then that concentrated material will get upgraded into potentially micronized, which is creating basically small particles out of it. And then that's where we might have an opportunity to create a graphite anode facility. That's what Nouveau Monde has done, and they've obviously had a lot of financial support from the Quebec government, which we also would like to tap into as well. Interestingly, another very prospective lithium-ion battery developer called Lion Energy is located only about 70 or 80 miles away from us in the town of Saint Jérôme, Quebec. And so we always want to tie into different potential buyers of our material locally and internationally. So the more buyers you have, the better your ongoing prospects look like. However, this is all something we will investigate because there's several other stages of development we have to go through. Once the PEA is published in the next little while, we'll have pre-feasibility, which is more definition on the actual material in the ground and processing of the material. And then finally, a final bankable feasibility study, which will go into the whole permitting process.
What is the cost to produce graphite and lithium in the U.S. versus the cost to produce it in China? And can the margins be made so that U.S. Canadian consumers are not paying more for a domestic product?
Yeah, I think that we can do it here. We have the ability to, I think several of the groups out there have produced graphite in the $500 range. And again, I point to Nouveau Monde as someone who's been permitted at that level. And, that's obviously a target for us as well. So can we do it here? Yes, we can. There's no reason why we can't. China just has an advantage in that they're a communist totalitarian society in which cost doesn't matter. They want to have the end product. Graphite, because it goes into the lithium-ion battery, and then they sell the lithium-ion battery for multiples of return rather than worrying about the cost of the graphite. And what they've done is they've actually taken the extra graphite they produced and dumped it onto the U.S. market, destroying any opportunity for mines to develop. So now North America's finally caught on to this and said, well, we better develop our own internal supply, because if we're dependent on China for rare earths or lithium or graphite, that's a real issue when it comes to trade and also geopolitical risk, because China and U.S. right now, in fact, China and a lot of countries are in in some difficulty in trade. China and Australia have issues, and so do China and the USA. So to develop a standalone project is very important. We don't have to be, there is no price sensitivity for this product. I mean, we can go higher in price and still find customers here in North America. So that's a very good sign for this particular industry.
Do you have any plans to uplist to the NASDAQ in the US?
Oh, I think it's a little early for that right now. We really have to get our stuff done on the ground and get our stuff ready. But obviously, we'd love to do it if we can. And we've seen, obviously, again, Nouveau Monde do a New York Stock Exchange listing, and that's pretty exciting because a lot of those shareholders also know about our project as well.